What's up, my nerdy friends? Let's talk about some FPL. We're back. FPL Fantasy. I got my man Doc here. I am back for the weekly video. Had a nice little getaway to my new position, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get more of these points. Today, we are going to talk about Game Week 1 review and then Game Week 2 preview for our teams, and maybe throw a little bit of thoughts that we might have in going into Game Week 2 that may help you make some decisions or analyze some matchups that are coming up in Game Week 2. But before we get into it, my man, Doc.
Hello, everybody. I'm just glad we are both here. Finally, an episode that's not a solo. I think the last three episodes were solo for some reason, despite your being away, but we decided to bring out some bonus episodes, and I hope everybody enjoyed them. And let's get into game week two.
Well, first off, we're going into our points for Game Week 1. Doc, I got your team up here. How did you feel about Game Week 1? What's going on here?
Well, it went absolutely fine. For the people who have been watching our episodes, my draft basically the only change that happened is Walker came in and he got 6 points, but he came in for Dyer. And remember that Dyer was in every single draft, like throughout the past month that I had. And the reason Walker came in because kind of Dyer was upgraded to Perisic like 2 days before the deadline, and then the rumors came out, okay, who are you gonna replace Perisic with? Because rumors are saying that Sessegnon will start instead of Perisic. I removed Perisic and I had 5.0. My two options that I had in mind were kind of like Zinchenko or Walker. And I didn't want to bring Dyer for some reason, bring back Dyer, although having him all the time in my draft. Still, Walker did great. The main reason I brought Walker in because I thought Walker will have an easy fixture, relatively easy fixture with Man City being the best defense in the league, so I'm doubling up. And the other reason is they have very favorable fixture in game week two. So I'm happy going into game week two with this team. Otherwise, the whole team kind of performed as expected. Nothing really fancy there. It's almost very template my team is, but I'm happy where I am. I'm around 460k. Rank doesn't matter for the first 10 to even 19 game weeks. So I really look at rank around game week 19. But yeah, I'm happy football is back. I'm happy FPL Fantasy is back with another episode as a duo rather than a solo. Otherwise, that's my team.
Yeah, the one thing that I wanted, well, I guess two things that I wanted to point out on your team is first off, you have Neto. I told everybody, but nobody wanted to listen to me, and here we are. And I'll leave it at that. And then Holland. You went with Holland, you stuck with your gut. He got you points. I, on the other hand, went with Kane. I expected at least a return out of him, but didn't get anything. So kind of a loss there, but that's okay. Maybe we'll look into some sort of a strategy for game week 2 with my team when we get to that.
Now, this Holland Kane thing, if you watch the literally the last episode on the channel, you'll see that I made a video specifically for Holland versus Kane, and I was set on Holland. I would say it was extremely unlucky for Kane owners to get absolutely no returns, 4 goals versus Southampton. I didn't expect that, to be honest. I didn't expect Haaland to outscore Kane by that many points as well. I honestly expected Kane will outscore Haaland in game week one. But the reason, and I mentioned in the video, is that I don't expect Kane to outscore Haaland by too many points that warrants a transfer. So that was the logic. So if you are a Kane owner, keep your head up. You didn't do anything wrong, and we're going to talk about if you should move Kane to Haaland on the next section of this episode.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to slide in to my game week 1 team. So game week 1, absolute banger. My bench boost that I put out there didn't really 100% work out compared to what other people would consider a success. I ended up getting 5 points, but that's about what I get with my bench boost. No matter when I use it, I'm just extremely unlucky with the players that I bring in and the time that I normally pop it. So I think the most that I've ever gotten is maybe 10 points, and on average, I'm usually looking at 6 points across the board. So I was one short of that. Then the one thing that I wanted to mention is my boy Dyer. We originally in my team had the good old Doherty, the Doughboy. I ended up making the switch to Dyer after hearing some of the presser news and information, especially closer to the deadline. So I ended up bringing in Dyer. One of the main reasons that I really like Dyer, after you put him on my radar, Doc, is they actually have a new set piece coach at Spurs. He was Italy's coach in the Euros, and he's been the coach at, I forget, a couple other clubs in recent years that have done really well with set pieces. And Dyer is nothing if not benefiting points from set pieces. So that's why I ended up bringing him in. I also had Henderson in my team, which was another little bit of a differential. I knew that he probably wasn't going to get it clean. I hoped that he did, but I knew it was definitely a possibility that he wasn't going to. But he got me save points, 2 of them actually, so that is great that it worked out that way for me. And then good old Kane, unfortunately, just not doing it. The last player I would mention is Madison. Really wild card for an 8 million spot. I think he was the lowest picked 8 million out of all of the big ones. I wanted to save a spot open for Liverpool in case in the future I have to make a move to Robertson or Diaz. And I also couldn't use a spot for Saka because, as you see, I had 3 Arsenal players, with Zinchenko being my dark horse pick for Arsenal. So he seemed like the natural selection. I know, Doc, we had talked about using possibly Mount because he has good fixtures coming up. Now, after that game week 1 and after a little bit of the preseason, I'm glad that I didn't go Mount. They can always recover, but as I said, Madison has people that he can feed to directly in front of him, where Mount has himself, and that's it, it seems like most of the time. So that was my thought pattern going into this game week 1. I'm on 79 points, as you see, just under 312,000. So I'm feeling really good about that. And actually, that is my highest rank I've ever achieved in FPL. Game week 1. So I'm done. I'll see everybody later. Have a good one. Doc, you got it from here, right?
Well, adding to that, actually, we are in a league. It's called Ducks Goats or something, and we are in a league, and you're on top of this league. And guess who's in that league? It's myself. We have all the guests that we had on the channel. We have Big Man Bakar in it. We have Reeve in it, and we have FPL Nitro in it. So you're on top of that league. So we might as well just round up the season, and you're the winner, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to take trophy on game week 1. We don't have to worry about the other 37 game weeks. If any of the competitors in that league are watching, I'd love to hear your vote and say, yes, let's close it out in game week 1. Thanks, guys. So now moving on to our next slide that we have. Game week 2 thoughts. Now I have a picture of Salah, I have a picture of Haaland, and the good old boys, Son and Kane. Just to kind of give a little insight into what might be going on in game week 2. Doc, what do you think about thoughts looking at game week 2?
Well, the main talking point about game week 2 is Kane to Haaland transfer. It's the most popular transfer across the across the fantasy game and across FPL. So, and I believe you have done that transfer before price changes. So here is a question for you that I would like to debate with you. For the people who missed out on the transfer and because of the price changes, and if they didn't have any money in the bank, they would have to take a hit to move Kane to Haaland. Would you take a hit to move Kane to Haaland?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That was one of the things that I was going to mention is I think Chelsea has a good team, but they are still very vulnerable. They don't look like they're clicking. So if you could have done it before the price rises, I think holding on to Kane wasn't a bad idea. And I would say holding on to the rest of the Spurs assets that you have as far as defenders and things like that, they're going to get attacking returns. They're going to be valuable, I feel like, in this Chelsea fixture. If you could have done it before, I think it was very valuable to move to Haaland. That aside from a 1 week transfer, if you were planning on keeping Haaland for multiple game weeks, I think you could actually go about and take a hit if you planned on keeping him for multiple weeks. I right now am looking probably keep him for 2 weeks and then switch over to Spurs again with Kane, but 2 weeks is a long way out. What do you think about that, Doc?
I have thought a lot about it because it's the only topic basically. Because we have prepared very well, especially the FPL community over Twitter. We have prepared very well throughout the preseason for this season to begin. So we kind of, and nothing really surprising happened except for the Haaland and Kane situation. So there was not much to talk about. It felt like an international break on Twitter. Like people were talking about noodles, burgers, the usual analytics FC versus grass FC debate, which is the first ever episode we've ever uploaded on this channel. So if you want, check it out. You'll see the development. So it felt like an international break. So that's the main topic of discussion. And I reached to the point that Haaland is here to stay. So if you transfer him in, it's not only that you get the preferable captain for this game week. Yes, Salah, which we're going to discuss in the next thought, probably. Yes, Salah is a great, absolutely phenomenal shout for captaincy, but Haaland comes on top on almost every metric, well, at least for the season. So I think you give yourself this captaincy option, and Haaland is here to stay. Yes, Kane can outscore him in the next three, four, but you would like to have Haaland for at least for the next five, six game weeks. So Man City, especially just before recording this episode, I was playing with the ticker a bit, and Manchester City have one of the best fixtures and slightly better than Tottenham in the next seven, I guess, 7 game weeks. Yes, 7 game weeks up to game week 8. Spurs have better fixtures in the next three after Chelsea game. So it's a 50-50 decision. For a hit, I will still do it because it just gives me the captaincy options and also covers kind of this effective ownership. Everybody owns him. You'll drop like a rock if he scores and Kane blanks and those kind of stuff. So I would do it probably for a hit as well, yes.
All right, Doc. How about the other conversation that's been out there very far away from the Kane to Holland transfer conversation, but using a wild card already? What do you think the stipulation would be to use a wild card in game week 2, given the information and the experience that we have within playing FPL?
I wouldn't support using a wildcard at the moment. You have prepared for 6 weeks for this kind of period of games. You know what games we had. There was not really someone really surprising. Probably Darwin is the only reason you would want to wildcard if you don't have him in your team. Most people would have Salah. They either have Kane or Haaland, especially the people who would watch this video, the hardcore players, the players who kind of consume content. They probably already have Salah. They probably have either Kane or Haaland. If you have Kane, you just transfer them to Haaland. Almost there is no other reason to wildcard. So I don't see the reason unless someone, for example, like yourself, who bench boosted and wants to bring the money back to the starting 11. Otherwise, you should trust what you research for 6 weeks. Let's say you research for 1 week. It should be enough to have a team well set up at least for 2 game weeks. So I wouldn't support a wild card. It's nice to hold it until my initial plan is to hold it until game week 8. Game week 8, we have fixture swings, we have international break, we have many reasons to kind of hold it to game week 8. If my team will need it in game week 3, game week 4, I will probably do it. But I did enough research, and I think everybody who's watching us right now did enough research to have a team that warrants keeping and trusting for at least another game week.
Yeah, if they watched our channel, they obviously did all their research because we're at everything that you could possibly need to get ready for the FPL season. That's what I think. Well, another aspect that I was thinking of is I think even if you went for a bench boost, like we saw kind of what my bench boost was set up, there wasn't a lot of funds really wasted to make the bench boost work, which was why it was attractive to me. So I had Bailey and I had good old Brian and Bomo. Now, yes, I spent about $1.5 million on this forward position, but when I sat back and looked at it, there wasn't a lot of places that I was looking to shift that $1.5 million to. And even taking Bailey's 0.5 out, I had 2 million. Yes, there were possibly some options there. Moving Martinelli up would have been an option, but Martinelli felt like a good player. Like, that was the guy that I wanted. I didn't want additional 8 million attackers, really. So it felt right, especially with some of these really good cheap players, really, in FPL, to pop the bench boost and then not necessarily need to take a bunch of hits or a wild card instantly to move out. And I would say even if you started off in game week 1 and had kind of a rough game week, trust your process, and hopefully in game week 2 or game week 3 it's going to kind of iron out a little better for you, because as I've mentioned in additional videos, historically I feel like game week 2 has been much less scoring than game week 1. Everybody comes in, they're fired up, they're ready to go for the new league. Game week 2 comes out, seems like there's a little dip in attacking efforts, so your defenders might get those clean sheet points that you're looking for. Your attackers may not necessarily get an attack, but they'll get the clean sheet point that they get in the midfield at least. And hopefully you can get something out of your forwards, or maybe they produced for you in game week 1 and that's where you got a chunk of your points. Don't panic. Let it just happen. Trust the process. And if all goes wrong in for 2 or 3 game weeks, then maybe you can start having the conversation. All right, do I need to pop the wild card to make this work this year?
I absolutely agree with that.
All right, Doc. So I have the preliminary game week 2 team for you up on the screen. Tell me kind of transfer plans, no transfer plans. What are you looking at here? Why have you started who you started, which I know you have 3 4.5s on the bench. Give us the thought there.
Well, if you look at the team, it's unchanged from last week because, like I said, I usually plan for at least 6 game weeks ahead, but I wanted to roll the transfer in game week 2. I made it like almost a mission. So I hope any press conferences do not make me change or I have to transfer somebody out. So I spend that transfer. But if you see at the team, the way I like to build it was kind of go for good players from good teams, as Zofar from the FPL Wire usually says. And I like this kind of philosophy. I have 3 City, 3 Arsenal, 3 Liverpool, and then 1 Chelsea and your boy Neto. So Neto can be Andreas. I can bring Andreas from the bench to Neto, but I usually play the person who's playing at home rather than the away player. So I don't see myself changing. This captaincy is on Haaland. It was the planned captaincy before even kind of the game kicks off, that game week 2 versus Bournemouth, regardless of what happens, as long as Haaland is fit, playing, and he scored 2 goals, so that was good enough. Captaincy will be on Haaland. The team is unchanged. I'm going into game week 3 with hopefully, unless press conferences change something, hopefully 2 free transfers, and then we'll see where it goes from there. I kind of looked at my team even in game week 3. I don't see many transfers that I would love to do. For example, Chelsea have, let's say, very favorable fixtures. Spurs have very favorable fixtures from game week 3, so I might bring one of their assets. Otherwise, the team is set. I'm happy with the team. I still have 1 million in the bank, so I'm happy. Let's see how this game week goes. The main thing is, you mentioned that the second game week is usually a lower scoring game week. Guess what? All my players and majority of the popular players are playing at home. So my starting 11 is playing at home. So I'm hoping for a higher scoring game week. But yeah, like you mentioned, for example, Salah, it's rumored, I haven't looked into it, but on Twitter, it's all over Twitter that Salah never scored in game week 2 since he joined Liverpool. He always returned in game week 1 but never scored in game week 2. I don't know how true is that, and I haven't researched it to be honest, but there's this rumor going on. So this is my team. Haaland, bring the points, please.
The one thing that I'll mention, and I know the community absolutely hates historical data, but Salah does actually have a really good record against Crystal Palace, so that might be the talisman breaker. He'll break the curse right there. So that's potential there. The other thing, you still have James in your team. Yeah, I get it. They were lucky for a clean sheet. Just get him out. Be safe. Don't go on the hype. Good.
James got into the bonus despite the yellow card. Sorry to interrupt. James got into the bonus despite the yellow card. He was on almost all the free kicks. I watched the game and I really didn't like how he was moving. I was mentioning it to my mates that there's something wrong with James. He probably injured or not. There's something wrong. And then Tuchel came out and said he's not in full fitness or something. So he wasn't like doing those runs into the box or taking shots from 40 yards out. So there was something weird. But the fact that he took like 15 corners and like 4 free kicks got him into the bonus despite the yellow card. So he's a bonus magnet. And when he gets to full fitness, let's see how it goes. Yeah, but I was surprised he got a medium range points. He either gets 18 or 0. So I'm happy with 7 points.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of James owners signed up for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he granted their wish because that's the only way he was getting bonus. And like I said, I was surprised Chelsea got that clean sheet. But I love the team. I think it's got quality. It's definitely got a lot of chances for points. Like you had mentioned, you have a bunch of home fixtures in there, and the big at the back. It's smart, and that caters to the whole game week 2 curse. All right, Doc. So getting into my team now. For the most part, unchanged, except for Kane has moved out, and I have Holland in there. I have a couple question marks that are somewhat in the air for me on do I want to bring somebody off the bench in, or do I just kind of leave it the way that it is? Number one is Dyer with Chelsea. While I think Chelsea really has a lot to sort out, I think that they definitely have the potential for one goal. So I'm going to lose a clean sheet there, but could I possibly gain points off of Dyer for free kick, or maybe he gets in the bonus or something like that? That's possible. And then the other one is actually Madison. I think Arsenal are kind of a killer team right now. Defensively, yes, they do have some holes that they need to figure out, that I think they were a little bit lucky at times to get away with the result that they did this weekend. But I don't know. I don't know, Doc. That's kind of where my head is living at. And yeah, I mean Holland, he's a good captaincy, especially with Bournemouth. So what do you think about this?
So I would keep the team as it is. You've already done your transfer, Haaland for free without taking a hit. I would keep it as it is. Like I mentioned, there was not many talking points to have during this game week, but I think game week 3 will have some twists and turns. So I'm looking forward to that. So good luck. And I hope everybody shares their team down in the comments, because we definitely reply to the comments and we will give our opinion about it.
For sure. And like you had mentioned, the game week 2, there isn't a lot to really talk about. It's pretty cut and dry, and most people are kind of making the same transfers. That's about it for our video this time. Before we sign off, I want to say, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching to the end. Like Doc had just said, make sure that you comment your teams down below. Comment your thoughts and opinions on the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll get into it next time. So, Doc, is there anything you'd like to say signing off?
I hope everybody enjoyed the episode. It has been a short one. There is again not much to talk about. We'll see everybody on Twitter, and we'll see everybody on the next episode. So again, do not forget to subscribe. I think we are on 197 subscribers, 3 to go. Help us out. It's free, and we hope to help you out throughout the season.
Yep. Let's get these points, everyone. All right. See you next time. Peace.